Hey, what's up guys, this is Satya for 8 Hertz. Today we're going to see a really cool effect. So let's not waste any time and just jump straight ahead because we have a lot to do today. So let me create a new comp. Basic thing is fine. And let me go ahead and create a new solid. And you know, any color, it doesn't matter. Apply, generate, and radio waves. So if you don't know, let's see our piece of gain once. This thing is based on radio waves. This is like a really organic form, transforms itself into letters, AE, and later on transforms into toots. And then transforms itself into a plus sign. That's my favorite. So that's what we're gonna do today. And for those of you who are wondering how I did that, I didn't use any trapcode plugins. It's all created using the Radio Waves plugin. So for those of you who don't know what Radio Waves plugin is, basically it generates radio waves, as many as you want within a certain time. Each wave is born and it dies after a certain time. It's just like a particle engine, but here we generate waves. And radio waves is not 3D, even though you can kind of get a pseudo 3D effect with playing with orientation, velocity and direction. But that's kind of hard to do, and we won't be dealing with any of it today, so don't worry. So, okay, coming to the general properties of radio waves. The producer point, the point where the waves are generated, can be keyframe. I mean, we can keyframe it, so we can change point where the waves are born. And let's say we animate it from here. Actually, from here to say here. And if you see, once a wave is born, it doesn't change until it dies. A new wave is born and it doesn't move along with the producer point or anything. It's because we have the parameters set at birth. I mean, once a wave is born, you can change its properties. You can change to each frame, to change the properties of all the waves every frame. Just you gotta choose according to your needs. That's pretty much it. And we have the Polygon Base. And those are really good. You can choose the number of sides from like really 3 or to like really high. The more number of sides you have, the more curvy it looks, and the less you have, the more you have more of edges. And the curve size you can manipulate all this stuff. In this case, a star, star thing. And the wave motion frequency is the number of waves it generates per second. Expansion is the distance between two consecutive waves. And orientation, you know what orientation is, the angle, I guess. And the direction won't work until you change the velocity that's greater than 1. So you can kind of get like really mild 3D kind of effect which play with these things. You just gotta figure out, get used to it. And spin, it spins every wave from its birth to death by a certain angle on every frame. That's pretty much it. And the lifespan, you know, the time between its birth and death, can make it really low to make it kind of cool. And profile, coming to the stroke, the profile square is kind of blunt. I always prefer triangle because you know it's really elegant. You know, and color whatever you want. Opacity, the transparency of the wave of a whole, you know, waves in general. And the fading time. So the wave, you know, when it's spawned, you know, uh, it fades in within a certain time, and you can control with this thing. Similarly, fade out time, time each wave takes to fade out. Starting with, you know, the width of the wave when it's born, end with the width of the wave when it dies. So this is pretty much what, you know, basic overview of radio waves. So you can change the wave type from polygon to mask. I mean, if you create a really weird mask, you can get this, you know, you can get, I don't know, okay. Yeah, so if you tell you to use, if you tell it to use mask one, you can get waves in the shape of the mask. They look pretty good. So that's pretty much it. The basic, you know, thing. And you know, let's reset radio waves. So I have the basic waves back. So if you didn't notice by now, first of all, what I had random motion of the producer part to create a really organic form. So random motion, I mean, this producer point moves really random, and the organic form is nothing but the waves behind it. I'll just show you. So in this thing here, it's nothing but like the producer point is somewhere around here, and these are all waves. We'll animate the shape of waves later on, but first of all, let's see how random the producer point moves from here and there. You know, from here, here. So the easiest way to, you know, get random motion in After Effects is wiggle. So let's animate wiggle by alt clicking and type wiggle 1 200. So for those of you who don't know what wiggle is, it creates random values, and it either adds or subtracts to, you know, to the given parameters if you want, or you know, it creates a random value within the specified range and frequency. I mean, its value changes from 0 to 200, you know, from 0 to 200 and it adds up to the initial value, and you know, it kind of wiggles around. If you don't know what wiggle is, you can find a lot of tutorials online, so I'm not gonna go deep into the wiggle thing right now because, you know, we have lots to, you know, cover. So that's pretty much, you know, we have like a really random wiggle motion. Let's put it back to fit up to 100%. And now I kind of want a rectangular. You can use the polygon with 4 sides, that works fine, but it kind of looks more like a square. I don't like squares, so I want a rectangle. So what I do is I create a mask in the shape of a rectangle. And you know, here we have a rectangle, and let's tell it to use mask 1, and here we have. And we kind of want the expansion to be like 1.5. 1.5 should be totally fine. Actually 1.7, a bit more expanded, yeah. And you know, last span, it should be less, like 2 or 3, put 3 in it. And don't worry about the orientation or anything right now, we'll deal with it later on. We kind of want the opacity to be 0.5 because when you do, you know, when things get super dark later on, you don't want it to happen. And fade time is equal to fade out time. That creates a really uniform, you know, effect. and kind of decrease the end width because it doesn't look too thick when it fades out. And I want triangle just because it looks good, and make it grayish black. So here we are. We have a really cool random motion with specified mask. So we got the motion set up. We got everything. Yeah, everything. You just gotta increase the frequency. It takes a lot of RAM. So just a quick heads up. So for some people, I'll just put like to 250, 240. So we have a really cool looking thing going on here. We gotta wait until it runs out. Yep. Then our next step is to create a background. So let me go ahead and okay, I'll show you something. Okay, layer, new, solid. So the value of wiggle changes with respect to the index of the layer. So as you can see, now we have a different shape here because the values of wiggle changed from the previous case because the index of the layer is different. Now when you put it back to the first place, it looks different now. It's just a quick heads up. So let me activate this layer and effect, generate ramp. Ramp is always a good thing to generate backgrounds. Radial, we have white, kind of yellowish white would be perfect. And we have the end color to be a bit more yellowish. And let me just pull it down. And let me add a light to it, to the comp, so that you have a really cool. And let me make the background layer 3D. So we have a really cool thing going on here. So as you can see, we pretty much got our basic moving thing, organic form, but it looks so rectangular, so we just need to animate the shape of it. So how do we do that? We have a mask, and we can transform this rectangular mask into a shape. So let me go ahead and create a new comp and create a new solid and create a new rectangle. That's like our base shape. And let me use the text tool, type in the letters A, E. Actually, let me go to the defaults thing, and kind of make sure the letters kind of what do you say, the tracking or the letter space is so low, just so that, they kind of intersect with each other. I mean, you can use the layer and create mask from text, but it creates a bunch of masks, and variables can only take one mask at a time. So I'll create auto trace, and I kind of want to blur because it creates a really cool modeling edge effect. And click OK, delete the layer. We don't need this layer anymore. Mask, we don't need the mask too, it's just the inside of the letter A. We don't need it, so just delete this thing. And copy the mask shape. We just keyframe it just to get the data out of it. We can get the keyframe data if we keyframe it. So you know, animate this, and after a certain while you want to see the A thing going on here. So you want the letters AE to stay on the screen for a while. You know, you don't want it to transform. So just copy this thing and paste it again so that, you know, it stays there for a while. And the next transformation is you want the letters TUTS, TUTS. In the same way, let's make it small. Actually, let's make it capitals. The smaller just kind of look. Yeah, so let's make it really close, I guess. Let's make it kind of small. And let's auto trace this layer as you know we did it before. Kind of, you know, kind of like the blur here. So if you think it's too, you know, more, I mean, too curvy, just you know, don't, you know, have the blur. But I like it. So here we have auto trace tuts with mask path. Just keyframe it so that we can get the keyframe data here. Let's copy it, and we don't need the text layer anymore. Delete it. The text layer, and here to mask path and paste it here. So we have transformation from zero. I mean, from rectangle to AE to, you know, it stays there for a while, and then to tuts. Let's make the tuts thing kind of longer, you know, because it's from 2 letters to 4 letters, so kind of looks good if it's longer. So we want the tuts to stay there for a while. So let me just go ahead and paste another keyframe. You know, or you can insert a, you know, blank keyframe here. It's totally fine. And, you know, after it stays there for a while, you want it to transform to the big plus sign. So let me go ahead and create a big plus sign. It's not, you know, so yep. And same way, go to layer, auto trace, and I don't like the blur in this plus sign, so just plus, and we don't need the basic plus sign anymore. We don't need these layers too. Mask, animate the mask path and copy it, and then paste it here. So from, you know, we have the animation from tits to plus, and, you know, that's pretty much, you know, what we need to do coming to the mask animations. You know, you can kind of move this a bit further like this and like this, because, you know, the more weird shapes you have here, the more organic, you know, your shapes, you know, organic forms you can have in the final thing. So looks good so far, and let me just arrange these things a bit so, you know. Alright, so we have a really cool animated mask. So let me go ahead and copy the mask, and, you know, just paste this mask here. And actually, I pasted in the same mask. So let's just drag this from, you know, here. Yeah. So as you can see, it's kind of like a render hog here. You gotta, you know, wait until it renders. So we have it from transforming from a rectangle to AE, and then we already have a lot of cool shapes here. We just gotta make sure, you know, we just gotta make sure, you know, Okay, let's make it 100% so it looks clear. Okay, we have really organic fonts here. So thing is, we have the wiggle thing activated here. So no matter what your shape is here, no matter what it's position from, the producer point keeps on wiggling. But we don't want wiggle to happen when it reaches a certain shape we want it to show. For example, in this case, AE. We want this shape to happen. I mean, we want this shape to stay on the screen for a while. Uh, so what we should do is we should create a new, or you can just create a new effect, expression controls, slider control. So this thing is basically, let's create let's go back to producer point, and let's create a new variable called x, and let's pick it to the slider, and let's multiply the wiggle amount by x. So what it does is basically we can control the wiggle by using slider, because we can it just multiplies by the value of x. If x is 1, I mean the slider is 1, the value here is 200. If x is 2, the value here is 2. It means the value is 400. If x is 0, the value here is 0. We can you can pretty much control the values of wiggle by using the slider. So let's go back here and press 1. So now we have a really cool thing, but we need the wiggle to come down as soon as the shape is formed here. Okay, here we have a certain shape. As soon as it's formed, we gotta make sure the wiggle comes down to 0.1. So let's go ahead and animate the slider. U to reveal its properties. Actually, not this one. Sorry. Slider, and yep. So in the beginning we wanted to wiggle the whole 200 pixels, but when it forms a certain shape we want it to show, we want to wiggle it less. Don't make it 0 because it just looks so so dark and so not interesting. So I'll make it like 0.1. That should work fine. So as you can see, when this thing starts forming, it just becomes too dark. So to prevent it, let me show you really close later on. So yeah, here as you can see, this thing just becomes too dark. AE. So to prevent it, we can animate the frequency in wave motion frequency. So you can create a animation that changes from the frequency changes from 240 to say half of it 120, just to so it's kind of lighter here, and you can see the changes like in the next couple of seconds, where you can see AE. Yeah, now it looks a lot better. Like it's not so dark as before. And so after no the mask stays in the same shape for a while, and you do not do anything, but you gotta make sure the slider also stays in the same state for a while. So let's create a blank keyframe here so that the value does not change. And when you go to the next mask, actually After a couple of seconds from this point, you know, say the distance between this keyframe and the next keyframe. Okay, one sec. Let this thing render. Okay. So the distance between this keyframe and this keyframe is you know, more than, you know, like kind of like more than 10 seconds. So just, you know, make sure you put the slider in between, and let's bring up, you know, the slider value back to 1. You should make sure you don't change the slider values abruptly, you know, like so. You mean, you know what, like so, what do you say, so frequently from 0, no, it's not frequently, but so rapidly from 0.1 to 1 or 1 to 0.1, because it makes the effect so choppy, the waves look so choppy. So make sure you give it sufficient time for it to animate, for the slider to change the value from 1 to 0.1, because the wiggle changes, you know, really slowly. As you can see now, this thing looks kind of pale. It's not dark enough. It's because of the frequency. So let's go ahead and change the frequency from, you know, 240. So that looks better. Yep. And we don't want to see the mask for a while, so okay. And the next thing in mask is when it forms toots. At this point, it forms toots. So you want the wiggle to kind of come back to its normal position again, 0.1. You know, not normal, but to 0.1 again, so that it doesn't wiggle too much. And as you can see, if you bring the wiggle down to normal again, everything works fine, but this thing looks so dark. Like, you know, the toots look so dark. So let me go ahead and make it 120 and see what happens. So even though you change it to 120, it still appears a bit dark. So let's move the 120 frame a bit in between, and let's make it to 60. Now this is kind of an effect where you can just kind of, you know, change the settings and change the frequency according to, you know, the text and all. You know, you get used to it. So after that we have touch animation. Yeah. Okay, so we have a touch thing, you know, from transform from a rectangle to AE to the touch thing, and now we gotta make sure, you know, we transform this thing to pledge. So the next transformation occurs at this point where the mask changes from touch to pledge. So we gotta make sure we increase the frequency. Let me wait until this thing renders out. Okay, so we gotta make sure we increase the frequency back. So let's put it back to 120. So the plus sign looks good. If 60 works for you, fine, it's perfect. But if you want to make it more darker, it's just actually 60 is better. So let's delete this thing. Yep. Later on, let's see now its transformation after the plus sign. Yep, it's perfect. We got a nice looking plus sign here with the cool organic transformation too. So that's pretty much what we did today. No, I don't want to run preview it because it takes at least 3 hours. No, it took me 3 hours. I don't know why, but probably better with your computer. It takes a lot of time, not 3 hours, but a lot of time. Keep that in mind if you're if you're planning to do this. And let me go ahead and make sure we just get like a couple of screenshots kind of thing. Let me just skim through the thing. So we have a nice looking rectangle transforming here into AE, the letters AE. And then we have a bunch of organic stuff here. You can see that a lot of organic shapes. Because it takes a lot of time for we take a lot of time to transform from AE to tuts. And then we have the beautiful tuts. And then it transforms to the plus sign. So that's pretty much what I did. You can still mess around with the orientation and spin. Here the orientation is always good. Spin is good when you don't have too many transformations. If you have too many transformations, I don't suggest using spin. I suggest using orientation. You kind of add some direction or rotation to it, and make sure the rate of change in the frequency is proportionate to the slider, just so that it doesn't look too dark or too choppy or too light. Just gotta make sure you see the things so that you can get the frequency all right. That's pretty much it's pretty easy. You just gotta add wiggle to the producer point, control the wiggle, animate the shapes or mask, and transform it. Make sure the frequency is high. That's it. You got it. So thank you for watching. Hopefully we'll see you again later on, and have a great day. Bye bye.